Welcome, students. My name is Derek. Derek spelled Derek. I am your teacher for this maths class. Today's maths class, we're going to study or discuss something about linear equations. Linear equations is spelled Linear, and the equation spelled Equations. Sign again, linear equations. Now, just imagine if a craftsman wants to use 2 meters, meters spelled METRES, wants to create a traditional mask. If the craftsman wants to create 5 masks, how many meters of wood will he need? How many? So questions like these can be solved using linear equations. That is why it's very important that we discuss this particular topic. Now, in today's lesson, our objective is to, first of all, define linear equations. Then we would move on to how best to solve linear equations. So let's start. Now, the first thing we are going to discuss is to know the definition of a linear equation. So a linear equation is expressed on the board. It normally comes in the form ax plus b equals 0. So whenever you see any equation expressed in that form, then it means you are dealing with a linear equation. So now, the terms a, b, x in the equation, what do they mean? A represents a constant. B also represents a constant. Then x is a variable. Then an example of an equation or an example of a linear equation will be 2x plus 3 equals 5. Again, 2x plus 3 equals 5. So now you can see it fully expressed on the board. Okay. Now the second item, how do we solve simple linear equations? So we have some steps we need to follow. So we have 3 steps that will help us to solve simple linear equations. Step 1. We need to group like terms. Group like terms. This means that if there is a number, or if there are numbers in the equation, we will need to group them on one side, preferably the left-hand side. Then if there are also variables, we also move them to the right-hand side, preferably. So we have an example of another equation on the board. 4x plus 5 equals 3. This is fully expressed on the board, as you can see. And the question says, find the value of x in the equation 4x plus 5 equals 3. So then a question, how do we solve an equation like this? So you remember we said we will follow the steps. Step 1, what did we say? Yes, we said we will group like terms. So our focus now will be on the board. We have x on the right hand side, and then we have numbers on the left hand side. So what do? X remains where it is. Then we'll shift our focus to the numbers, because 5 is on one side and 3 is on another side. So we'll decide to move 5 to the other side. So now you remember that if you move a number that is positive to the other side, or it crosses the equal to sign, it changes and becomes negative. And if the number is negative and it moves or crosses the equal to sign to the other side, it becomes positive. So, for instance, we have positive 5 here. So when it moves to the other side, it becomes negative 5. So let's write. For x will be equal to 3 minus 5. Very good. So now, what do? We go to the second step, step number 2. We add or subtract the like terms. So here we have 4x, and then on the other side we have 3 minus 5. So what do? We add or subtract the ones on the left hand side because they are numbers, and then 4x remains exactly where it is. So our focus now is on the left hand side where we have 3 minus 5. So we add or subtract, right? Yes. So 3 minus 5, what would the answer be? Very good. The answer will be negative 2. So we write that as well. 4x equals 4x equals minus 2. Very good. Step number 3. We divide both sides of the equation by the coefficient of x. Again, we divide both sides of the equation by the coefficient of x. So let's try it. So we divide both sides by 4, since 4 is a coefficient of x. Right. So we do the division now. We know 4 divided by 4 will give us x. Now, never forget that the negative sign remains there. So we are going to have negative 2 over 4. And remember, 2 can divide 4. So 2 divided itself, and the answer is 1. So we have x equals negative 1. Then 2 divides 4, and the answer is, yes, 2. So we see that by following the steps, we've now been able to find the value of x. So therefore, the value of x in the equation 4x plus 5 equals 3 is negative 1 divided by 2. So we write that as well. So students, that is how to solve simple linear equations. So what did we discuss today? We learned that if you want to solve a linear equation, you follow 3 steps. The first one is to group like terms. Then the second step is to add or subtract the like terms. Then the last step, step 3, is to divide both sides of the equation by the coefficient of x. So if you're able to follow these steps, then we can easily solve simple linear equations. Thank you for staying in this class. We want to see you in the next class as well. This is where we would end for today. We'll continue in another class.